Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Dallas Chamber of Government Affairs. Today, our speaker and guest, we are familiar with his face and some of the things that he does, but Kenny Lapoint with the Mid-Columbia Community Action Council. But first, we're going to go around the room, introduce ourselves, and if you have anything quick happening, this is your time. This way, actually, if Kenny, for some reason, hasn't met you, he has a kind of idea who is in the room today. So I'm going to start with my upper left corner, which is Matthew Cole.
I'm Matt with Direct Line IT, provide IT services here throughout the Gorge, so just happy to be here this morning.
Thank you. Scott McKay.
Good morning, Kenny. Good to see you again. Scott McKay, still the director of the Mid-Columbia Senior Center.
Julie Reynolds.
Julie Reynolds, I'm a retired gerontologist and I have some community activities at St. Paul's Episcopal Church, and I'm on the Fort Dallas Museum Commission. And I'm a fan of yours, Kenny, so I want to hear what's going on with your work.
David Peters.
Good morning. Hi, Kenny. So, yeah, Dave Peters, Columbia Cascade Housing, Columbia Housing Authority. Good news, we are going to be today or tomorrow, hopefully maybe next week, putting up the applications for the new COVID response funding that's going to pay. It's unique in a way that it pays if you're behind in your mortgage or your rent or even utilities, it can pay up to 6 months past due on those. So that the applications, at least information for those, should be on our website within the next few days. And that's the Mid-Columbia Housing Authority website. It's, I think, mid-columbiahousingauthority.org, but you can just Google it. It's probably the easiest way.
Okay, thank you. Dan Spots.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Dan Spots, Columbia Gorge Community College. We visited we had a field visit with our Economic Development Administration representative out of Seattle yesterday at the regional airport. It looks like we are in line for a $3.5 million grant that will go into improvements at the industrial park there and also build a training hangar for the college. This is for the aviation tech training program. Keep your fingers crossed, nothing quite yet, but it's we should know probably within a couple of months on that one. Childcare, we have 3 work groups that are meeting starting next week, talking about different aspects of the feasibility study we conducted last year. And we do have capital funding for a childcare center in the Dalles. We would like to break ground on that probably about 1.5 years out from now. We need to have it completed by June of 2024. The trick is going to be sustaining it long term. So for that, we will be looking at operational supporting agreements with various partners. We're looking at potential of a distributed model to also incorporate Hood River and Cascade locks. And finally, on agricultural tech program, the Hood River County School Board yesterday approved unanimously a memorandum of understanding with the college and the Parks District to move that project forward. This involves the acquisition of farmland in Hood River. That program definitely will touch upon agriculture throughout the Mid-Columbia sector. So we'll keep it moving. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. Travis Duray.
Hi, good morning, everyone. We are definitely standing on the shoulders of giants here. If you know anyone who works in one of our clinics, a physician, anyone on our medical staff, anyone on our team, please give them a heartfelt thank you. I'm going to paste Dennis's notes here, which kind of really outline the situation where we are in the midst of Omicron, and our staff have not really had a chance to even come up for breath in about 2 years. So it is a testament to their courage to keep everyone in our community safe. I'll also paste a link to our listening session. So those of you who want to reflect back to your college days, this is last call. And then I'll be bumping off at 7:30. We have a leadership meeting to kind of go through. So Kenny, I appreciate listening and your time, and I'll see y'all soon.
Great. Thank you, Travis. Philip Brady.
Good morning, Phil Brady, also with Mid-Columbia Medical Center, the Board of Trustees. We had a trustees meeting on Tuesday, and we're very happy to have 2 new trustees join us. Nolan Young, whom our former city manager coming now from Troutdale. He's joined our board. And also Sue Knapp. She's the director of the Shoots Rim Health District in Maupin and thereabouts, and putting together the Shoots Rim Clinic in Maupin. So it's good to have two new trustees. And I reinforce what Travis was saying to join up in the listening sessions to move our potential partnership exploration process forward.
Great, thank you. Tanya Brumley.
Good morning. I have my camera off because I'm eating breakfast, so you caught me off guard. Thank you. Tanya Brumley with Northwest Natural. We have kind of some exciting pilot projects going on that eventually I'll start talking about some details, but basically taking waste products off of boilers and making soap out of it. So it's called carbon capture soap. So it's pretty cool. There's a market out there. And so as I get some more information, I'll share that with you guys and get some links, but it's pretty exciting, all of the technology that's out there to make this a greener world. So have a great day.
Thank you, Tanya. Bill Lennox.
Good morning, everybody. I'm with Six Rivers Dispute Resolution Center, and I don't really have an update. Looking forward to today's program. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. And Lisa Gamby.
I'm Lisa Gamby, Wasco County Clerk, and I'll keep it short so we get to Kenny's presentation.
Thank you. And it looks like we were just joined by Dan Richardson. And Dan, do you want to say a good morning?
Good morning.
There we go. See, that was so simple. So, and before we get into the program, the Chamber just wants to remind everybody our Distinguished Citizens Award ceremony is tonight. It is on YouTube. We will be sending out the link to everyone. It will be available as of 6 p.m. Of course, it will live on the YouTube channel and our website. So if you can't watch it tonight, you can go right there and watch it again. But I encourage you to just kind of have that sort of a community feel and go ahead and watch it tonight at 6. And then be sure to thank those people that are being honored in that. It's not the easiest. I'm just going to put it out there. It's not the easiest to honor our award winners without all of the celebration with people in the room. There's a whole different feel with the lack of energy because there's nobody in the room. So, but they deserve an audience. So hopefully tonight that will work well for everyone and be able to just celebrate some of our people in this community who never ask, they just do. So with that, Kenny, I am going to turn this over to you. And I will watch the chat for you. I will also watch if anybody raises their hands so that we can make sure you have those questions to address. Do you prefer to wait at the end of your presentation or all between?
I'm fine with going in between here. It's
okay.
Too early in the morning for me to know any better, so that's fine with me.
All right, so if you guys have questions, please just get my attention or put it in the chat and I'll make sure that Kenny gets that as he presents. So with that, Kenny Lapoint, I appreciate you being here and thank you, and it is all yours.
Thanks, Lisa, and thank you everyone for being here. Kenny Lapoint, Executive Director of Mid-Columbia Community Action Council. I think many of you or all of you are familiar with us, but we're your community action agency that serves Wasco, Hood River, and Sherman counties. Our offices are in the downtown area of the Dalles, right next to Shannon's Ice Cream. Many people know that. So I wanted to give a little bit of an update kind of on the agency's activities over the last year. I know I've come to you since within the last year, but I kind of wanted to update you on sort of our production over the last year, and then talk about a few projects that you're probably interested in. So in 2022, and these are 2021, these are very preliminary numbers. We will be releasing an annual report probably in the next month or so. So I can make sure and get that out to folks. It'll have a lot more detailed information for you. But our agency was able to get over $4 million out into the community that we serve. And I think I like to remind folks that that money goes into the community. So it's often put into the hands of landlords. It's put into the hands of our staff. It's put into the hands of local vendors. So they're reinvesting back into the community. So I think that's a really important thing to note. In addition, there's a workforce component for us as well. We've gone from a staff of 9 in November of 2020, and we are right now hiring our 26th and 27th employees. So we've increased in size pretty significantly, and those are folks who, for the most part, are primarily from Wasco County. So they're in the Dalles because our main office is there, but they are folks that we're employing in the community. Our household utilities program, which many of you formerly know as energy assistance, we've kind of rebranded it because we're doing more than just paying power bills. We're also helping with gas bills. We're helping with garbage, sewer, water. We're actually about to launch a new water program here in the next couple of weeks that will help pay water assistance for folks. But with our household utilities program, we were able to provide nearly $1.1 million in utility bill payment assistance to households throughout the region. And that went to serve around 3,000 folks across the area. Our housing team, and some of these housing numbers are still being updated, but we served around 500 folks in the region. We were able to prevent homelessness thanks to partnership with Dave's organization at the Housing Authority. We were able to prevent homelessness for nearly 350 households in the region, which obviously I think everybody knows here, we can't really afford to have more folks who are experiencing homelessness, both from a financial perspective and from a societal perspective. We were also able to take 115 households who were on the verge of experiencing homelessness or who were experiencing homelessness and move them into permanent housing. So those are really, really good numbers. Again, they're not updated. That's from November. So the state's homeless management information system was receiving an update in December, so we weren't able to pull the information. So we'll have more updated info in our annual report. Our weatherization program, which provides in-home weatherization. So we actually work with contractors to fix homes up to make them more energy efficient, new windows, doors, insulation, more energy efficient appliances, kind of more high cost jobs there, where a utility bill payment might be, a couple $100. These jobs are $20,000 that we're doing for people. So we were able to serve 17 households in 2021, which is up from 13 in 2020. And we actually anticipate seeing a 10-fold increase in that program due to the federal infrastructure package. So we will have a lot more activity coming on that program. I will just say that this program 2 years ago, we served 0 households and it was about to be shut down. So we have ramped it up significantly and we now have around 50 households on our waiting list to receive services through this program. We also have a supportive services for veteran families program. I think many folks know that we own the Hamilton Apartments on 2nd Street, which serves veterans. So we have 10 veteran households there, but we also have a case management team of 2. They're mighty. The 2 are mighty, but they provide services to formerly homeless veterans or veterans experiencing homelessness. And in 2021, we were able to assist 18 veteran households, and we were able to place 5 of them into permanent housing during that time. So this is kind of really intense case management, one-on-one. Our folks are working directly with these veterans on a day-to-day basis to help them access health care and other social systems that they need access to stabilize them. On the shelter side of things, that's probably where we've seen the most significant increase in our services. We we have funded 3 shelters in the region. Actually, we funded a 4th shelter as a pop-up shelter in Hood River during the severe weather event in December. But we have had 4 shelters going at one time. Right now, we have 3 going that we're funding. We fund the Hood River shelter site, which is very similar to our pallet shelter site that's next door to Tanya on Bargeway and Terminal. We also fund, have helped to fund in collaboration with the City of the Dalles. We've helped to fund St. Vincent de Paul during the winter time here to ensure that folks are safe from severe winter weather. With our shelter program in 2020, we had made available approximately 5,000 shelter bed nights. So those are nights that somebody could get in from the cold and be safe. In 2021, right now, and we're still collecting some of this data, but we know that we provided over 25,000 hotel bed nights, or not hotel bed nights, shelter bed nights in 2021. And that's a combination of our shelter programs as well as our hotel motel voucher program. So our shelter programs primarily serve adults, single adults or couple adults. They do not serve children. And so we prioritize hotel motel vouchers for families with children who are experiencing homelessness, as well as those with medical conditions who might need a higher level of care, they're doing wound care, or they have a complex medical condition that requires them to be in a more contained space. And then we also prioritize hotel vouchers for those who are fleeing domestic violence. So significant numbers, significant increases in numbers in 2021. Another important number is in our Dalles shelter in particular, which is year round right now. We served 80 individuals in that shelter over the year, and 21 of them were able to transition into a permanent housing solution. So whenever we place somebody into our shelter, we have our housing and other case managers meet on a weekly basis as a team, and they collectively identify the needs of each shelter client and work with those shelter clients to help get them basically moving into the next phase, which the next phase for us is getting folks into a permanent housing solution, whether that's permanent supportive housing, standard market rate housing, or in some cases, we're trying to get folks into assisted living or higher levels of care because regular housing is not appropriate for them. So we have quite a few seniors that we serve at our shelter site. And I think as folks know, we have quite a few folks who are experiencing behavioral health disorders and sometimes multiple behavioral health disorders. Last thing to note on the shelter side there is that I will say that recently we've had some of our shelter staff test positive for COVID, and we had to shut down our shelter for a week and we placed everybody in hotels during that time. So they were all taken care of, and we had our staff that were not positive. We're checking in with our shelter clients on a regular basis. But while we've had staff that have tested positive, in the 1 year that MCAC has now operated the Dalles shelter site, we have had 0 shelter clients test positive for COVID-19, which is a phenomenal number and probably somewhat lucky. I'm not going to say it's because we did everything perfect. It is partially because this shelter was set up as a non-congregate sheltering model. So the idea was that you were isolating people a little bit more. But we've also done multiple vaccination clinics at the site. So our shelter clients have had access to vaccinations. And then we also do testing clinics regularly. In fact, over the last couple of weeks, we've been testing our shelter clients frequently to make sure that if there is a positive that shows up, we are able to immediately isolate them and not further spread COVID-19. So we're really staying on top of that. And that is, not all us, that's partnerships with other community agencies, with MCMC, with One Community Health. So working across housing and healthcare systems to make sure that we're keeping people safe. So those are kind of our programmatic numbers. We obviously have like quite a few other things that we've accomplished as well. We have a new strategic plan. I think I mentioned this last time, new strategic plan, new website. We are working towards building navigation center and some permanent housing, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But with that, I wanted to give the opportunity for folks to ask any questions that they might have about our the statistics I went over.
Any questions from anyone?
And I can have some coffee.
Okay, you drink your coffee. Coffee is important. Bill Brady.
So Lisa, this is Lisa.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Let
Lisa.
Lisa go.
I just was curious as to how your organization, Kenny, works with the Wasco County Veterans Services in serving veterans in our area.
Great question. So our SSVF case managers work directly with the VSOs in each county that we serve. So they're getting referrals from them. They're referring back and forth, basically. So when the VSOs have a client that they believe would qualify for our SS service, sorry for the acronym, Supportive Services for Veteran Families program, they will refer them to our case managers, and we will work to place them in our program. Our case managers are really on top of it. So whenever a referral comes in, they can typically provide a qualifying veteran with access to resources like within the day. So we are coordinating with the VSOs, the veteran service officers, on a very regular basis.
Great, thank you.
All right. Bill.
Two questions. So let me first appreciating this is very difficult work with regard to case managers and people in shelters. I would imagine the case managers are interacting with people experiencing homeless out in the field and encouraging the people to come into the shelters. And so what is the success rate of that? Because I'm sure it's very difficult.
No joke. It's definitely difficult. So there's sort of a couple things here. We have our case management team, which is, we have multiple case managers on the housing side, and then we have our shelter staff, but we also have a street outreach team. So we have one street outreach staff member in the Dalles, Wasco, Sherman County, and then we have one in Hood River, and then we have a community health worker that goes out along with them to help folks access healthcare resources. Some of you might know our street outreach staff in the Dalles. His name is Joseph Rankin. I think a lot of folks know Joseph from a variety of areas. We've been really blessed to have him join our team. He joined our team earlier in 21 as a shelter staff member, and then we sort of moved him into an outreach position. So Joseph goes out and he is working with people experiencing houselessness directly, going into homeless camps and trying to get people connected to those other resources, shelter, if it's a hotel voucher, he is trying to connect them to those things. Like you said, it's difficult. So we do have, there's a number of folks out there that have been in our programs and have not done well. So in some cases, we've had to exclude them from our programs because they've put other folks at risk. That doesn't mean we stop serving them. It just means that we have to think about the whole. So we have like 34 people staying at our shelter, and we need to make sure that all 34 are safe. And sometimes that means that we have to exclude somebody from being in our shelter. Again, we don't stop serving them because of that. We're trying to work with folks, get them connected to behavioral health resources, which has been one of the more challenging areas for us to do. We Center for Living is pretty constrained right now, and our team is being asked to be a lot of things, like behavioral health care providers, in some cases, end of life care, in home care. They're doing a lot of different things. They're wearing a lot of different hats. we need more partnerships from other organizations in order for us to address these bigger issues where really the homeless service system ends and another system begins. We're trying to make sure those connections are made, but I think you all see it. It's that's the most challenging area for us to address houselessness.
Let me follow up then. I did some of this work way back in the day in Tacoma. And it's the and I went back there and visited, and things have changed. It's gotten bigger. And so following up, like just on the work of Joseph Rankin, you mentioned he works in the Dalles and Wasco County. How much of his work outreach goes to the southern parts of the county, Maupin and Dufur and beyond?
So he does, his outreach sort of correlates with the need. So when a community partner, a community member says, hey, I've got somebody that we noticed was, at the truck stop, and it looks like he's experiencing homelessness, then we'll send Joseph out there to try and connect with that person. So we do that in Sherman County too. The Sheriff Lowry in Sherman County is closely tied with us, also a board member, but he makes sure that we're connected to folks in Sherman County where, obviously it would be very difficult logistically for Joseph to drive around a very rural area and just try and figure out where folks are experiencing houselessness. So we are relying on community partners, community members to say, hey, we need somebody to do some outreach to someone in this particular area. So I would say if you have people that you've identified in Maupin, in Dufur, as you mentioned, anywhere sort of like in a more rural area where you think they may have been unnoticed, flag it for us. We may know them already, we may not. Better to be safe than sorry, so we can make sure we're connecting folks. But Joseph does go out to those areas. He spends more time sort of in the Dalles, in the city limits, where we have significant need, but we're happy to go out and have him check in with folks.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna jump on here because I have a couple other things I want to make sure and get to. The second thing I wanted to mention is some of you may be familiar with this, but the Association of Oregon Counties and the League of Oregon Cities have collaborated together to bring some legislation into the short legislative session here in Oregon that is basically, they're trying to fund pilot projects across the state where a county and city will collaborate together to address houselessness. The Association of Oregon Counties and League of Cities, and this bill is sponsored by Representative Kropp out of Bend. The League of Oregon Cities and Association of Counties went out and basically said, who's interested in being a part of this coordinated homeless pilot project? And 8 communities were selected to be a part of the pilot project, which means they're in legislation. They don't get anything yet until the bill passes, right? We were one of the 8 communities that were selected. If the bill passes as it stands, we would receive $1 million over a 2-year period, so $500,000 a year, to do coordination efforts, as well as creating sustainability, creating sustainability around funding homeless service systems. And then we also asked to use some of the funds to do direct services because we're actually a little bit further along than the other communities who are included in the bill. We're unique in this, in that we are the only community that was selected that has more than 1 city and 1 county that is included as part of our pilot. We have 3 counties and 2 cities. So we've got Wasco, Hood River, and Sherman counties, the city of the Dalles, and Hood River. And I will say that all of these governing bodies basically supported our letter of interest in participating in this pilot, which was phenomenal to get. We had to do this, we had to rally this in like 5 days, and it was great to get support across this region to do that work. But we submitted a letter of interest. We were selected. The bill is House Bill 4123, for those of you who love to track legislation. We do have multiple state representatives, senators, and representatives that are co-sponsoring the bill from our area. So, which is great that we've got that type of support from our state elected folks as well. And our local government folks were able to advocate for that as well. So yeah, if we're selected for that, we'll get $1 million to, part of it is to develop a strategic plan around addressing homelessness in the region. We are already actually doing that. We were funded by Providence Health Systems to develop a 5-year strategic plan for the region, which includes Hood River, Wasco, and Sherman counties. And we actually included Klickitat and Skamania counties in our planning process as well, recognizing that there is really no, you know, our folks experiencing homelessness don't look at the other side of the river and say, I can't go over there because that's outside of the jurisdiction of the agencies that serve me. That's not how it works. So we felt it was very important to include our partners on the Washington side. So we're already in that development process. So that was one thing that the funds could pay for. So that is why we said we don't need that money. We would like to use it for implementation. We'll be developing some sort of coordinated office. Our agency, MCAC, is the lead on this. That is also unique to the pilots. We are the only region where a nonprofit organization is serving as the lead. The other regions that are in the pilots, there is local government that is serving as the lead, which would be challenging here because you wouldn't be able to have a multiple jurisdictional approach. So this is a very good way for us to go about it, and it makes sense for our region. MCAC is the agency that really leads on homeless services across the Tri-County area. So it makes a lot of sense for us to be the lead there. So if you hear anything from folks, if you have any questions about that, you want more information, let me know. If you have a good relationship with a representative that you want to talk to about it, let me know, and I'm happy to provide you with more detail. But I will be keeping cities and counties up to speed as that moves. It will move very quickly because it's a short session, and it's not going to take long to get through, but there is significant support for that bill. I think I told folks last time that we have, working with a housing development partner that we have have an option agreement on the old Westgate Market on Chenoweth Loop, and we are hoping to apply for state and federal funding to develop that site into housing, which would be a combination of housing for veterans as well as some workforce housing and permanent supportive housing. So we are still working through sort of the preliminary phases of developing that site. We're doing some environmental review work right now. I think folks know there's an old gas station across the street, and there's some questions about how that gas station was decommissioned, which would potentially impact the property. But that's kind of where we're at, like the boring front end environmental phase of the project. So hopefully we can get an application in over the next 12 months and begin development on that in the future. Lastly, and probably not least, is Navigation Center. So we've made significant progress on the Navigation Center development. I will be sort of making a more formal announcement on the site that we are going to be using moving forward on I'm hoping to do that at the City Council meeting in mid-February, where I will be taking sort of our preliminary site plans, cost estimates, programming information, all that kind of stuff, which is what we've been working through to date. I will give you a preview that the site we are working on is on 7th Street, West 7th Street. So that's where we are working on that. We have about 2.5 acres there that is undeveloped that we will be working on. I very much encourage folks to, okay, let me address Lisa's question real quick first too, because that's a great question. And sorry, I just assume everybody knows what a navigation center is, right? Even though it's like a new term that the state created. So a navigation center in definition is a shelter that includes services on the site. We have taken this really a step further, and our navigation center will look a lot different than the others. I think there's 8 or 9 others that are being developed in the state. Ours will look a lot different. We are going to be building a multi-agency service office where we can provide a bunch of services to not only people experiencing homelessness, but people who are experiencing poverty, housing instability. They can come in and receive a variety of services. So it's not just for homelessness, but our shelter will be on the same site, which provides us with some a better way to provide services to our clients. We have about 8 agencies right now that are planning to co-locate with us at the Navigation Center. They include the Mid-Columbia Center for Living, One Community Health. The Housing Authority will have some presence there as far as drop-in space goes. We're working with the Columbia Gorge Health Council on this, which would bring the Bridges to Health Community Health Worker Program there. The Oregon Human Development Corporation, which serves agricultural workers and provides job training services. Nichiwana Housing, that serves Native community members. The Next Door. So a lot of agencies under one roof providing a holistic array of services. So we're not sending people all over the community to try and access community services. I've also been in conversation with Dan about potential of other components of the project that include things like childcare. I think as folks can imagine, or I would ask you to imagine, if you were going in to try and work with a housing case manager or a behavioral health counselor and you have your kiddo by your side, it would be rather difficult to have those intense conversations with a caseworker if you've got your kiddo in tow. So having childcare resources on the site where a mom or a dad or a family could drop off the kiddo with a drop-in childcare provider, and then they could go and talk to these multiple agencies about their service needs. So there's childcare resources. We are planning a community kitchen there, or commercial kitchen, as well as a large community meeting space, which has been one of the, when we've met with our community partners on programming, it's been one of the things that have been identified in the Dalles area as being a very significant need. We don't have many large community spaces where we can have bigger community meetings. This could also be used for potential events. We would have a commercial kitchen next door to a space that could, you could have 50 to 75 people in that room. So you could bring in a caterer and have them cater an event where you have folks who are, sitting down for dinner or something like that. Multiple job training components to the project. We feel like that's very important, that we're providing people with a sort of a path to self-sufficiency. So again, I mentioned the Oregon Human Development Corporation being there. They're going to be doing some job training aspects. They do GED work. They do work on post-secondary education. Dan and I are also talking about, because we are planning on moving our shelter, our existing pallet shelters, to this site. So the existing site on Terminal and Bargeway will go away once this is done. We will move those existing pallet shelter units to the Navigation Center site on the sort of the back side of the property. And over time, we would like to try and use the pads that the pallet shelters are going on, transition the pallet shelters off, and hopefully provide an opportunity to work with the community college to facilitate the, I think it's the tiny home CTE program. So we would convert those pallet shelters into tiny home shelters that are stick built, that have longer sustainability and resiliency. We could sort of pack up those pallet shelters and put them into storage. And then when we end up with a disaster response situation in this region, we can mobilize those pallet shelters that we still have ownership of I'm thinking, I was the Wildfire Recovery Council chair when we had those major wildfires in the state over Labor Day weekend a few years ago when I was working for the state of Oregon. And one of the things that I could say is that the state was not prepared for the response that was needed to those wildfires. And I want our region to be prepared when we end up in a disaster situation, and we could mobilize those shelters to provide, you know, short-term housing for folks who have been displaced from wildfires, or even house wildland firefighters themselves while they're working the fires in the region. So that's kind of like future thoughts, but job training opportunity there with the tiny home program and creating long-term resiliency on the project. We also will have about an acre of property left after we have developed the current proposed center. We anticipate having about an acre left, which we are making sure we create flexibility in the project so we could potentially build some permanent housing opportunities on the site as well. And I've been talking with Joel Madsen at the Housing Authority about the potential for developing workforce housing out there on the site. And even, I think folks know that that area there is fairly undeveloped. So there's potential for other housing opportunities there. So again, I will be going, yes.
So real quick, this is a lot of information and I appreciate it. Do you have specific websites where we can find some of this information? You've referenced quite a few different projects, and then, you know, with the transportation center and that, do you have websites or one that actually has good...
Challenge, Blake. One go. Who can get the furthest? Let's find out.
Not sure who's got something going with interesting accent. If you have that playing, you need to mute. Okay, so if you can we'll give you a minute, you can drink coffee and type, but if you could put a link in the chat of where we can find all of that information, because I know there's been several popped up. Wait a minute, I didn't catch that. Where's this at? And then we'll go with Dan's question here in a second, but we'll give you a minute to take a gulp and type.
So there will be more information on the Navigation Center coming to City Council and County Commission in February. We don't have anything out there yet. So, but I will be, the plan is that I come with sort of the city is committing some funding to the project, and we are going to be basically showing the council what the project's going to look like in concept right now, so that they can have a much clearer idea of what we're talking about. Because as it stands today, you guys have received more information than anybody else has. So we want to get that on paper, and we are working on documents that that will show that information. There's also going to be some community fundraising opportunities that will be coming as well. So more information mid-February on that. We haven't really put anything on websites or anything because nothing was firmed up until now. And we do have, this is firmed up. We do have a general contractor that we've hired. We have architects and housing consultants that are all working on the project. There's been surveys done on the site. Title has been transferred to us. All that good stuff has already happened.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I know we had a question a minute ago. Dan, do you still have a question?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa and Kenny, for the information. I wanted to do kind of a nudge to that group email that I sent out earlier to college. Do you have like a rough groundbreaking estimate, something target date or anything like that? Not to bind you down, maybe
we
just a month or something like that.
We hope to break ground later this year, probably in late summer, early fall.
Okay. That's enough for a nudge. Thank you. I just want to be sure we keep this in mind up here. We're all, as is everyone, kind of balancing plates on sticks. So we don't want to let anything drop. Thank you.
Okay. Kenny, I think you can go ahead and go from there.
I also dropped the emergency rental assistance link in the chat box because the state has launched a new emergency rent assistance program for those who have been impacted by COVID-19. The website opened yesterday. So if you know folks who need emergency rent assistance, you can send them there. It sounds like Dave and the Housing Authority also have a program that could potentially help folks, but there's multiple avenues. The Oregon Emergency Rent Assistance Program will only be open for a short time. We don't run the program. It is run through a state website, which is always wonderful. But send people to that site and hopefully it works well for them. If they need technical assistance in completing applications, send them to our office and we can help.
Okay, that sounds great. And then Tanya actually asked where on 7th is the project to be located? Is there work going on with the county emergency managers to look at future use of pallet homes?
The 7th Street location will be firmly announced at the mid-February meetings. I think many of you can probably make assumptions, and I would say that you're probably right. But I'm not prepared to say the specific location right now, but use your assumptions and kind of go from there. As far as the emergency management side goes, one of the things we need to, this is definitely a future thing. Like we're not really ready to go there yet because we're planning on using those pallet shelters. I think one of the things we need to do first is Dan and I are working on having further conversations with the community college about the tiny home aspect of it. So we want to make sure and get that lined out before we start talking about using our shelter units for emergency management. But we definitely will be talking with the county about that and with Matthew on that front. But that is sort of just my out there vision thing because I don't want to be flat-footed when we have an emergency situation in our region where we need some shelter.
Okay. All right. It's all yours, Kenny.
I think I talked enough.
So Dan did put some items up there for awareness. And I'm sure you can grab that. But
you posted our website there, so folks have access to our website, which is a great place to get. I mean, our website is usable now. We also have program applications on there so people can apply online, which if you have folks who need assistance, I mean, if they need technical assistance in filling out applications because they're unable to, they need a paper application, they can come to our office. Our office is not open to the public. We will answer the door, but we are not letting people come in just to prevent further COVID outbreaks. And for those who know our offices, they're very tight. Again, 27 people from 9, the office did not grow in size. So we don't have a lot of space to bring people in, but we can certainly provide assistance. I will say that we are trying to teach community members who are accessing resources how to use the online application system so they're not completely reliant on paper and coming to our office, because it just creates delays in application processes for people. So we want to move them through as quick as possible.
sounds great. Does anybody else have any other questions, comments, or input? I do not see anything. So I'm sure you guys won't mind if you get 5 extra minutes in your day. That means you can have 1 more cup of coffee before you begin the next task, or tea, depending on your preference. So with that, Kenny, first off, thank you so much. What? Go ahead, Lisa.
Oh, Lisa, I was just going to mention to the group that There are 2 open positions. The 2 Wasco County Commissioner positions are open in case people who, for instance, might be retiring from a current profession and want a new opportunity. I just want to put that out there that there's Commissioner Position 1 that will be on the ballot and Commissioner Position 3, but there's information on our website. I'd encourage Kenny to run for commissioner, but it sounds like he's got his hands full as it is.
So I'm hearing you say, Lisa, that, Scott, who's just retiring, is like really eligible to do this.
He already has done it, hasn't he?
Lisa, been there, done that. And
Oh,
so,
but now you have more wisdom to offer. You got more experience, more wisdom now than when you did this. So,
I second that nomination.
All right. Well, that's good to know.
Don't forget, Bill's been in that spot too.
I second that nomination too.
Yeah, I say I second. I agree with Scott. Definitely, Scott. Another 20 years for sure.
So I just put the link up there for the county site where it talks about the county offices and the positions that are open. So there you go. Scott, you got your marching orders. Thank you, Lisa. And with that, everybody have a great day. Enjoy I know that there's some places that are finally in person, so enjoy in person. But I still on the side of caution. And if there's anything you guys need or any other ideas for speakers, let me know. I did put in the very top of the chat the upcoming speakers, and we've also given that to Bill because he is so great. I'm just grateful because Bill takes and emails all of you and reminds you of everything that's happening. So he does have this list of speakers that are coming up also. We are also putting them in the e-blast that comes out every Monday, a link to our past speakers. We're found a better system, so we're able to get them trimmed and uploaded to YouTube, and then a link to you guys so that you can share those too if there was a topic that was of interest for you. So with that, everybody have a great Thursday.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.